Hello and welcome to another episode of I Will Hold Space for Your Darkness, a first responder mental health podcast. I'm your host, Erin Jane. And today I am joined by someone that I have both equally admired and probably stalked a little bit by distance, the lovely Dr. Medina Baumgart. She is a police psychologist, having a background in clinical and forensic psychology. She's a board certified specialist in police and public safety psychology. She's the published author of a wonderful book that we will no doubt have a bit of a conversation with today called Surviving Retirement. Finding purpose and fulfillment beyond the badge. She's the host of a brand new podcast called We Carry This. And she's also the wife of a career law enforcement officer who is now retired. Medina, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to have a conversation. I've equally been following you for some time, and it's nice to finally meet.
I know, this is fantastic and probably long overdue.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually hold a very special place on the podcast because you are the sort of first professional that I have had on who, as much as you are in the first responder space, you have not been a first responder. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really interested in and also I have lots of interest in the realm of psychology and counseling and being the spouse of a first responder myself. So I'm really intrigued to kind of pick your brain a little bit today. So I
Awesome.
hope you're
Thank you.
got yourself ready for all the questions. So I guess probably where I want to make a start with you is sort of what actually drew you to the field of psychology in the first place.
Yeah. So I want to say like high school-ish. I was actually more interested in going into medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And around that time, everything I was doing, all my classes were in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
And then during that period of time, I had some pretty significant experiences, personal experiences, family experiences
Mm-hmm.
related to depression and suicide.
Okay.
And so that I think is what shifted me toward the path of psychology, really
Mm-hmm.
wanting to understand it.
Yeah.
Understand, why do these things happen? Why do people struggle and suffer and others don't?
Yeah.
And since then, I kind of switched gears and it's been all psychology since that time.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's truly incredible how sort of, our personal situations and circumstances so heavily influence us and spurn
Mm-hmm.
us in those different directions. And so sort of towards after you sort of got, some of your education and throughout
Mm-hmm.
that part, I know through my stalking that you, sort of worked in the corrections sort of side
Mm-hmm.
and with clinical and, forensic psychology. Can you talk to us a little bit about the beginning of your career in that regard?
Yeah, absolutely. So once I decided I wanted to go into the field of psychology, so I did my
Mm-hmm.
undergraduate, got my bachelor's in psychology. I
Mm-hmm.
knew in the state of California, you have to go all the way through to your doctorate.
Okay.
But I really sat with my bachelor's, I want to say for about a year and a half or
Mm-hmm.
so, because I didn't know which direction I wanted to go in
Yeah.
psychology.
Yeah.
I know just out the gate, I'm not very fuzzy wuzzy. So I couldn't see myself in this kind of traditional therapy, setting.
Yeah.
And at the time, my husband and I were together, I don't know, maybe a year or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I started looking in my research online in the field of forensic psychology. And so it was this marrying of psychology and the law.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this sounds interesting and kind of looking at things to do. And so I went the forensic psychology route. The field was very green at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, minus my first year of criminal law classes, during which I wanted to die because I had to read case law, and that's a whole separate conversation. But
Yes, I understand that pain.
oh my gosh, it was so frustrating. But I went through part of my internship and everything was on the criminal side of it, which
Yeah.
I was really interested in. And
Mm-hmm.
so I started my career, my internships working in a correctional environment,
Yeah.
predominantly with males. I did do a rotation with females.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed the jail population and looking at the forensic side of kind of competency to stand trial and
Mm-hmm.
issues like that.
Yeah.
And so that's where I started.
Yeah.
And it was phenomenal experience. I'm so glad that I had that. But I
Mm.
noticed about like 3, 4 years in, I was kind of hitting the ceiling.
Yeah.
I'm somebody, I like to constantly be challenged.
Mm-hmm.
I like to learn stuff. And it was just kind of the same burnout.
Yeah.
And just it wasn't really stimulating or feeling purposeful anymore.
Yeah, and I could
And so,
imagine some of the same
mhm.
maybe recidivist offenders that you kind of saw quite frequently.
Yeah, yeah. And it was just like kind of, what am I really doing here? Am I making a difference?
Mm-hmm.
This, again, great experience, but it wasn't feeling like it aligned with me anymore.
Yeah.
And so around that time, I had received the application announcement for the job that I have now with the
Mm-hmm.
law enforcement agency. And I was like, okay, I'm ready for a change. Geographically, it was in a part of the county that was closer to where I was, so I wasn't going to
Yeah.
have the commute.
Always
And
helpful.
yeah, and working in the correctional environment, interacting with law enforcement, obviously being married to my husband, I was like, yeah, I think this might be the thing,
Yeah.
and landed there, and it's been 10 years, and I'm so happy I did. I love it.
Wow. And was that the same department that your husband worked for?
Different department.
Different department. Okay.
Yeah.
Even better.
Yes, yeah. We'll debunk any. He was my
Yeah.
patient before
No,
because we get
no,
that all the
no.
time.
I promise I was
Different
not going down
agency.
that path. And we can get to him, but I'm wanting to focus on you a
Hmm.
little more right now. But
Hmm.
was he in the job either when you guys met or
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And so, and I guess we sort of hear different things in terms of like EAP and all that kind of thing. But it sounds like your role is actually with the department. Is that kind of like
Hmm.
what would we call like an embedded role?
Yes. Yeah. So we are separate from EAP.
Mm-hmm.
We within our department were embedded, both at different units and then in
Mm-hmm.
our offices.
Yeah.
So specifically being exposed to that culture,
Yeah.
understanding that culture, and being able to provide the service for our people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's important too because getting to know them, you seeing them around and all that kind of
Hmm.
thing, that kind of can build that rapport that especially with this kind of population. They see you around, you stop, have a chat, and then it kind of, I think, can maybe reduce and take away some of like that stigma of like, oh God, like I have to go see someone and talk about my feelings and whatever else.
Hmm.
And then it'd be like, oh no, that's like Doc. I saw her in like, the coffee room or whatever the other day, or,
Hmm.
I saw her giving shit to this person. Like,
Hmm.
like I feel like in our roles as wanting to provide that mental health and wellness services to
Hmm.
people in the way that you do, I think that having them embedded like that is such a great component of obviously the consideration that that department is showing their members
Hmm.
to have you in that role.
Yeah, completely. And trust is so big. I mean, we can always have all of the resources in the world, but if they're not trusted, no one's going to use them. And so the embedded
100%.
piece of it is so, so, so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And how big is that department?
I think we're sitting at roughly 17,000 employees.
Jesus. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big department. I think that's like the
Hmm.
biggest in that state, isn't it?
Yes, in the state. Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And something that I also wanted to ask you about is I saw that you're EMDR
Hmm.
qualified.
Yes.
I wanted to, because I've had other guests on here. I've had the lovely Travis Gribble on here before,
Mm-hmm.
talk about it, and a couple of other who have been through, on the patient end and the receiving
Mm-hmm.
end of EMDR treatment. I would really like to sort of perhaps hear it from the clinician's perspective about,
Mm-hmm.
why you wanted to go down the path of becoming qualified in that. I know it's kind of something that's gained a lot more traction, in the last
Mm-hmm.
few years, even though it's probably like been around for, better part of a decade. Talk to me, a little bit about it, and perhaps like kind of maybe the transformations that you've seen with some of your clients with obviously respecting their privacy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I found the training, and I can't remember exactly how it landed in my lap.
Mm-hmm.
And my department, my unit was looking at getting our psychologists all trained in EMDR.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was kind of the guinea pig. They said, here, go to this training, let us know if it's good,
Yeah.
and if it's something we can use. And so going into it, I mean, full disclosure, I was familiar with a lot of the research. Um, I did kind of a background on it, and it's been around for decades. I think just
Mm.
more recently, kind of gaining traction
Yeah.
with this community. And I was a raging skeptic, if I'm going to be honest, because I'm
Yeah.
like, there is no flipping way that this,
Doing some of this
this
shit, some
movement,
of this
yeah,
stuff.
some of this is gonna
Yeah.
like absolutely not. But hey, I'm
Yeah.
here. So, and so going through that training was a really
Mm.
unique experience. And then part of that training was us kind of doing and receiving EMDR with our own stuff too.
Wow.
And so, of course, you're training, so it's clunky.
Yeah.
And that, they're like, don't pick anything that's like super,
It's too bad. It's too
distressing.
triggering. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was like,
Yeah.
fuck this. If I'm going to do this, like, let me just do it.
Yeah.
And so I picked something that was distressing for me, that was very challenging, and worked through it. Slept like a champ. And then I was like, oh my God, this actually works. And so
Wow.
when going through the training and bringing it back to my agency, I was super excited because I could tell people like, hey, I
This
have
shit
this new
works.
tool. Yeah.
Yes.
Like I'm going to explain it to you. You're going to think I'm nuts. But if you just kind of trust the process and do what I'm asking you to do,
Yeah.
like it's going to work. And
Yeah.
so, you know, utilizing EMDR with my clients, and it's not for everybody,
Yeah. Yeah.
but the ones that I've used it with, just the reduction in distress, the ability, and sometimes they're not really aware of it till we're
Mm-hmm.
kind of checking back in and talking about it, and they find themselves talking about something they've never been able to talk about before.
Yeah.
um it's funny because I'll get people who have done it already, and then
Mm-hmm.
something happens, years down the road, and then they pop
Yeah.
back in,
And
they
it
go, hey, can I get like a little,
re-emerges. Yeah.
yeah, let me just come in, get a little tune up, and
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah.
So I like it. It's effective. um you don't necessarily need to talk about it. So I
Yeah.
know for some of our folks, it's challenging to put words to it,
Yeah.
and you don't need to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a, hey, let me meet you where you're at. As long as you know what you got going on in terms of experience on the inside, I can help you.
Mm-hmm. And
But it's
I feel
such a
like that
powerful
would
intervention.
be, yeah, really like a complementary treatment for our kind of population who, struggle with that element of, releasing control over
Mm-hmm.
everything. And that is sort of something, and obviously I've done like a little bit of reading about it. That yeah, like the fact that they don't actually have to disclose everything to like
Mm-hmm.
the clinician, like you're saying. It's like it's kind of just all going on up there, but
Mm-hmm.
then they can feel the physiological as well as psychological and emotional benefits of the treatment itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just to, see the different experiences, and as a clinician, it was a little different because, if somebody's actively kind of in distress and emoting during processing, we just kind of let them. So
Yep.
I'm not going to interrupt your process. I'm not going to, hand you a tissue. We kind of got a setup. So if you need it, grab it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I'm going to let your body and brain do its thing. and I'm going to
Yeah.
stay out of the way. And I'm here, to make sure things don't get out of hand, and that, you're going to be good. But it's such a remarkable tool.
Yeah, and I love hearing about it. Are you able to sort of perhaps explain, and I think you are one of the best I've come across in terms of being able to explain things in sort of like layman's terms, but without
Mhm.
going into like too much detail. So I guess like the mechanics behind,
Mhm.
and I know they're not necessarily 100% sure why it works, but like
Mhm.
to the best of, your understanding as a, practitioner who uses it with your clients, like
Mhm.
how exactly does it work?
Yeah, so the goal of EMDR really, and this was an example somebody gave during my training that I found
Mm-hmm.
helpful and I've used in explaining it, is it takes it, if you can imagine being in a movie theater.
Mm-hmm.
That's a 3D movie, right? And you have all the surround sound and you have the 3D goggles, and so everything is activated and alive.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the goal of EMDR is to take that experience with all of that extra information and
Yeah.
stimuli, and really just get it back to a photo album. So you're not going to necessarily forget, so it doesn't
Mm.
erase memories or anything.
Yeah.
But it gets it back to the photo album. So when it does come up, it's a very brief snapshot and you're
Okay.
not re-experiencing it. And so during an EMDR session, and there's different protocols for different things, but I'll take critical incidents because that's what I use it for the most, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Um, is, once we get some history, some basic history down, we talk through the incident, we kind of identify what's the most distressing part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And through a series of specific questions, kind of activate that experience in their
Mm-hmm.
memory network, in
Yeah.
their brain, and then also the physiology, right? So sometimes people will say, I got this tightness in my chest, I had a lump in my throat, my
Mm-hmm.
stomach just feels knotted.
Yeah.
And while that's activated, we introduce what's called bilateral
Bilateral
stimulation.
stimulation. Yep.
Yeah. And typically the more traditional form is with eye movements. So
Mm-hmm.
I tell people out here it's like FSTs, so your field sobriety test when you're looking
Mm-hmm.
for the
Yeah.
nystagmus. So you're following this thing. Um,
Yeah.
but they do have these little kind of like tappers that buzz in your hand. We have
Okay.
auditory tone. So there's different ways to introduce that stimuli. And
Okay.
yeah, everybody's kind of different in what helps them process.
Mm-hmm.
But when we introduce that bilateral stimuli, what that does is it helps the brain reprocess the event. So the parts that may have been stuck and really alive with all of that stimuli, that 3D high definition
Mm-hmm.
surround sound version, we get
Yeah.
rid of that stuff because that's not really serving you. Um,
Wow.
and so it's, when people think about it, it's now just a quick flash. And
Yeah.
you might still be able to feel the emotion. If it was something sad, you might still feel sad, and that's normal. We want you to feel normal, be a
Yeah.
human being,
It
but all of
takes
that
away
extra
that,
charge.
yeah, like the
Hmm.
intense, overwhelming emotionality
Hmm.
kind of removed.
Yeah.
Wow, I mean,
Yeah.
gosh, that's so incredible. Like I spoke with one of my husband's friends who was a veteran and served overseas, and he received it probably like a decade ago now. And like
Hmm.
his clinician was like, I want to try this on you because nothing else is working. So, like in its
Hmm.
infancy. And then I think I said something to him about it and he kind of looked at me like, you know what that is? And I'm like, I
Hmm.
do. And he was like, that saved my life.
Yeah.
So the power of it is, and
Hmm.
yeah, so thank you so much for explaining it, because I think,
Yeah.
all these different terms like CBT, EMDR,
Hmm.
ACT, blah, 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 like all these like different notions and topics and everything get thrown
Hmm.
around. So I think just having someone who actually does it, explain it that little bit is so beneficial and helpful. So thank you
Hmm.
for that. I did
Yeah.
tell you I was going to I did tell
It's
you I wasn't
fine.
going to be a Spanish Inquisition, but I can't help it sometimes.
It's okay.
um, And so now I do want to cross over a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and sort of have a bit of a conversation about, obviously we've mentioned the fact that you are married to a now retired
Mm-hmm.
law enforcement officer, Tony. Talk to me about sort of, how long you guys have been married for.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned obviously beforehand that he was already a police officer when you
Mm-hmm.
guys met and got married. Perhaps maybe talk to me about what you thought you were getting yourself in for when you guys got together.
We've been together 24 years.
Mm-hmm.
Married for January will be 19 years. And
Wow.
I had no idea what I was getting into.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we met, we were both coming out of relationships where we were pretty injured still.
Okay.
So we call it like round one. So round one didn't go too well. Uh, so
I
um,
like that. That's good.
so later on, when we came around to round two,
Mm-hmm.
it worked. And him and I talk all the time, and neither of us really know what clicked at that point, but it did. And
Yep.
so he was working at the time, kind of doing like high risk entries and working major narcotics and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So his schedule was all over the place. And the parts that I didn't necessarily understand was kind of the impact that would come home.
Yeah.
So I found myself, he would come home, and at this point, I think I was either wrapping up my undergrad or starting my grad school. I can't remember which, but he would come home, and I'm just excited that he's home. And so I'm just wanting to bombard him with love and let's talk and let's have a conversation. And oh my God, blah, 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 blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah, blah. And he just kind of was like, yeah, please no.
Yeah.
and so, and so at the time I would, kind of go, okay, this is not about
Yeah.
me. He had a long day. Let me
Mm-hmm.
just be nice. And then, when it turns into like 3, 4, 5, 6 months of that, now I'm starting to get frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, bro, like you're in a relationship. There's two of us here.
Yeah.
I get
I
that you're tired,
exist. I'm
but
a person. Like, yeah.
yeah, you still have to participate. And so, so we kind of did the best we could with what we had at the time and fumbled through
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of the things that we do, I tell folks now, kind of building in that decompression time,
Mm-hmm.
him coming home and having that anger spill over that wasn't directed at me as a spouse, but I still felt it.
Yeah.
And so, it's so common in a lot of first responder relationships. There's not like great communication happening. And
Mm-hmm.
so we're left to figure out like, okay, well, what's he mad at? And then it's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, what did I do? Did
Yeah.
I
We
say something?
internalize it. We walk on
Mm-hmm.
eggshells, all of the things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that we did that. I mean, we made it work. We survived it for, this many years, but it
Yeah.
was rough.
Yeah. No, and I appreciate you sharing that, because
Mm-hmm.
I think we obviously do hear a lot about the responders' experience, and as we should. They're the ones, going to work and doing all of those kinds of things. But I think an important aspect that isn't talked about as much, and is sort of slowly starting to a little bit more, is that
Mm-hmm.
the not only the experience but the impact on like the partner or the spouse, who, like you're
Mm-hmm.
saying, we don't know what is coming through the door. No
Mm-hmm.
one teaches us how to be
Mm-hmm.
a spouse or a partner of a first responder. And, like obviously from, my circumstances, like I
Mm-hmm.
sort of let my, policing career like inform me how I best
Mm-hmm.
show up and support my firefighter husband. And then equally now all of like the studying and everything that I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing. And I'm sure you probably in this, or found yourself in a similar place. But
Yeah.
I guess sort of maybe one of the things I was interested in asking you about is,
Mm-hmm.
how did you how did you manage it, I guess, when you were seeing him come home and
Mhm.
exhibiting some of the behaviors you're talking
Mhm.
about, and whether it's the maladaptive, unhealthy coping, concerning behaviors, all of
Mhm.
those kinds of things. And no shade at Tony whatsoever. This is all
Mhm.
very philosophical.
We're human. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I guess sort of like then having that part of you, which is very unique with your
Mhm.
education and your experience working, you know, as a psychologist, and
Mhm.
then moving forward and working with other people in law enforcement. Like, how did you manage seeing stuff in your partner? Like,
Mhm.
were you on the front foot? Were you kind of like, oh, I don't want these streams to cross? Like, how did you navigate that, I guess, up to the
Mhm.
point prior to his retirement?
Lots of trial and error.
Mm.
uh, and we joke because we're both, I think, equally stubborn. And so, I try the like, let me match his energy.
Mm-hmm.
Not effective at
Yeah,
all.
I've done that.
I
a lot of,
tried
lot of,
the
lot of,
like,
lot of fuck you energy ends up happening if you guys
yeah,
do that.
exactly, yeah. um, and then kind of trying the, polar opposite of that and just withdrawing. And that I think short term felt better, long term just very disconnected.
Yeah.
And then, over time, and I think it honestly happened organically with us, is just
Mm.
meeting in the middle and finding like, okay, he's going to need that time to decompress,
Yeah.
giving him that time. And then also, kind of navigating and managing the expectation of, hey, once you get your time, then we're ready to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously it doesn't have to be anything, huge, like
Mm-hmm.
conversation wise, it's just connecting. And so I think we fumbled through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and now like there's so many great things available and conversations happening and actually supportive like spouse groups, which didn't exist
Mm-hmm.
at the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is kind of reaffirming, like, okay, not the only one. This is a thing, you know.
Exactly.
But yeah, it was just a lot of trial and error and fumbling through it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, in the work that I do, I'm better able to kind of package it and understand it from
Mm.
that side of it,
Yeah.
which not only helps my own experience, but then helps me help other people and couples.
Yeah, no. And that makes a lot of sense to me. And because I think as well, you know, we sort of were having a conversation offline, but it's, you know, we can be the spouse of these, you know, first responder partners, but it's, you know, we kind of use that to like inform how we show up for them and how we
Hmm.
support them. But like you're saying, we're still our own people. We've still got our own lives and our own responsibilities, and there can be that, like you're saying, that weird sort of learning curve, or
Hmm.
you know, like, oh yeah, do I match their energy? Do I, like, you know, I make the choice, and again through trial and error,
Hmm.
to you know, I just kind of lean in with compassion. That's
Yeah.
kind of the thing that I do the most. And you can see it on your partners, you know, their disposition and their demeanor when they walk through that door.
Hmm.
And I know, you know, slightly a little bit different, like with a firefighter, like he comes home after 24-hour shift, he's
Hmm.
probably going to be like
Yeah.
tired regardless. But I think one thing I wanted to ask you about, which I
Hmm.
think maybe many of us have wrestled with, is the fact that, and like you're saying, there was no sort of support, like,
Hmm.
you know, when we all sort of started going through this. What do you think spouses and partners can do? I guess when, or I'd be interested in your take on it, because like there's that, I think many of us end up wrestling with that like determination of like, is is there something like wrong, or are they just tired? So it's kind of
Hmm.
like, are they just tired, or are they burnt out? Are they just kind of having like a bit of a blah day, or are
Hmm.
they, you know, depressed? Are they like kind of falling into that range of like hypervigilance off duty, or are
Hmm.
they kind of maybe just like a little bit amped up and wired and buzzed afterwards, and they're
Hmm.
calming down? Like, how I guess, what would your advice be to spouses trying to discern what's
Hmm.
what's actually going on with their partner?
Yeah, I would say, working with your partner too is having like code words or code phrases that we know what kind
Mm-hmm.
of day it is, even if we don't know the
Mm.
details. And
Yeah.
that's something, a lot of times, and that can start kind of that relational drift is when it's assumed on both sides, like they're not going to understand. My partner's not going
Mm-hmm.
to understand. And technically true, right? I'm not wearing the uniform, so yeah, I'm not going to fully understand,
Mm-hmm.
but if you allow me to just be here for you,
Yeah.
whatever that looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the day, then we at least are connecting.
Yeah.
And so and it could be a question to your first responder of, hey, I noticed, or I know this week is going to be really long, or I know that like the last few shifts have been pretty gnarly.
Mm.
How can I support you when
Yep.
you come home?
Yep.
And then kind of meeting them in the middle with that, and then also having things in place. So if they're still like for my husband, if he's still ramped up and we're having a normal conversation about something really not super
Mm.
significant and
Yeah.
he's starting to ramp up, knowing, right, and it took me a while to learn as a spouse that
Mm.
that's let's not match the energy.
Yeah.
Let's just say, hey, why don't we like, yeah, pause the conversation, you know, go do something else, and then we'll come back to it and continue.
Yeah.
And not having and being flexible and realizing that quality means more than quantity. I
Yep.
think as a spouse, we want to jam as much in as we can, the few hours that we have them where they're
Yeah.
somewhat awake, um, you know, and not like his days off. I'd be, oh, I have an itinerary for what we're going to do on your day off. We got to do this. We got to do this. We got to do this.
He's like, I want to lie on the couch and do nothing.
Exactly. And so kind of meeting in the middle and blocking
Mm.
if he needs time blocked out because it's been just a crap
Yeah.
week, then block out that time. And I know like I'm not going to bug you. If there's
Yep.
stuff I need to do, I'll go do what I can. And then if there's
Yeah.
things I want you to, run errands with me, then we'll do that later.
Yeah. And I think as well, paying attention to their social barometer. Like my
Mm-hmm.
husband's social barometer is vastly different to mine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it can be annoying at times, but
Yep.
I've
Been there.
learnt, yeah, but I think I've learnt that I would rather have him for a good hour
Mm-hmm.
than drag him to something when I can tell he is freaking miserable, and then that
Mm-hmm.
makes me feel bad, and kids might like sense that tension or whatever
Mm-hmm.
else, and it's like I would really just rather have like one good hour and then go, okay,
Mm-hmm.
peace out, you can go,
Yep.
or like whatever. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, that's again has been one of those learning the hard way type of
Mm-hmm.
deals. And I think as well, and I wonder if this is probably something that you may discuss with not only your clients but potentially
Mm-hmm.
their spouses too. I think one of the things that I've definitely personally learned along the way and would kind of share,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have these conversations when they've just come off shift. You don't
Correct.
have them like in terms of the how best do I support you conversation, or
Mm-hmm.
coming up with the code word. It's like you have these conversations like on their days off, or like when they're on
Mm-hmm.
leave or whatever else, when like everything is as peaceful as it possibly could be. And because I feel like that's when we can be informed in the best way possible. Whereas,
Mm-hmm.
like, when you're in the midst of whatever it is they might be going through, and then you're trying to say, like, oh, what can I do? And no, no, no. And how can
Mm-hmm.
I do this? And they're just going to be like, fuck
They're
off.
like, yeah, they're like,
Yeah.
stop talking,
Yeah.
start there. Yeah.
Yeah. Stop talking, make me a sandwich, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. But yes, I think that's one of the key things that I've definitely sort of found, and I think as well, and I don't know whether you found it too, if there were things that you had to address with Tony in regards to any concerns or his behavior or anything like that, like finding the right moment to
Mm-hmm.
address something you might be seeing that you don't think that they're aware
Yeah.
of or that you might be a bit concerned about or whatever else, picking the moment, I feel, is incredibly crucial to any kind
Mm-hmm.
of successful interaction. If so they're not feeling attacked, so they're not going to respond defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they're just going to actually be open to hearing you, picking that
Yeah.
moment, I think, is a really crucial part of it too at times.
Yes. I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we obviously know that, you guys have been married for almost 2 decades now. And how many years has Tony been retired for now?
He just had his 9th year
Ninth year.
anniversary
Oh my
retired. Mm-hmm.
goodness. There you go. So talk to me about um, him, or I guess maybe him in the lead up to
Mm-hmm.
retirement, and then what that sort of looked like for, I guess, for him from your perspective, and
Mm-hmm.
equally for your experience of him too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he did 29 years
Mm,
and some months out here, kind of uh, with his cohort and everything. The goal, right? The benchmark is to try to make that 30-year.
mm.
Um,
That's a
and
long
so,
time. That's
yeah.
like,
And so he got on the job when he turned 21. And
okay.
so he was hoping to make it to 51 to get that 30.
Mm-hmm.
So we had kind of early career gone through our things, figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
And, life would still happen. But for the most part, we had a pretty solid foundation. And
Mm-hmm.
thank goodness for that, because that's what I think kept us together
Yeah.
during his retirement. So yeah, so his last 5 years with his agency, there were a lot of changes, certain programs getting dismantled. That
Yeah.
boiled down to the work he loved to do. He wasn't able to do that anymore.
Mm.
On top of, poor leadership, bad supervisors, all of the bullshit that comes with the job.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say about the last 5 years weren't the greatest for him.
Yeah.
And so seeing kind of this reemergence of the intensity of anger that we saw early on, and so it would be like he'd be driving home, pissed off from the day, and he would call his partner who's mutually pissed off. And so they would just have like
Am I?
an hour and a half or 2 hours
Yeah.
of just this
Oh,
fueled,
yeah.
right, conversation. And then I would get that version walking through my door. And so it was difficult because at this point in time, we'd been together for so long and navigated that initial, adjustment, and me trying to
Mm-hmm.
understand him too, that I
Yeah.
knew he was hurting. So I think it was easier for me to access that compassion
Mm-hmm.
in the relationship,
Yeah.
and feeling equally as frustrated for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so he got to a point where it was kind of like, fuck this, I'm done. But then also battling but I'm so close. If I do this many more months and
Yeah.
this much, I hit this benchmark of 30 years, it's more money, all of that thing. And it got
Mm-hmm.
to a point where he called me one day and he was like, I have my paperwork. Do I submit it?
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I within like zero point 0.2 milliseconds was like, turn in your fucking paperwork. Because at that point, I mean, full
Yeah. You're
disclosure,
like,
I was
dude.
done. I was like, you're gonna have a heart attack,
Yeah.
you're gonna have a stroke, or I'm
Mm.
gonna kill you. Like those are the only three options we got left right now. And so he did that. And then, kind of navigating that adjustment and
Yeah.
just having to use tools that we previously used early on and kind of bring that stuff back into the fold and
Mm-hmm.
navigate this new phase. So I
Yeah.
got a crash course in that, which was fun.
Oh yes, so I read, and I guess the one thing I sort of wanted to ask too, like, given your knowledge base and education
Hmm.
and the fact that you worked with members, was he, and maybe it's not an always or not, but was he
Hmm.
open to sort of either your feedback about sort
Hmm.
of either how he managed things or maybe some of the behavior you were observing and all
Hmm.
that kind of thing? Or was he like, F you, I'm not one of your freaking clients, like
Hmm.
type of thing? Like where did he land on that scale?
Yeah.
Or
I mean,
depending on the day.
my wife credits were definitely worth more than my psychologist credits. So and throughout his career, he's pretty emotionally contained. He's been in a couple of shootings, went to see the doc when he had to see the doc, and that
Hmm.
was it.
Yeah.
He respected and valued what I did, but also wasn't fully bought into it.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a couple of times where he would just look at me because my tone would change, and he's like, And I'm like, okay, sorry. So I'm like, let me try this. And it just would not, it wouldn't land. So it was kind of I think obviously going into his retirement, I was better informed as his
Hmm.
wife, and then also in the work that I do. Um, but it was still a challenge, man,
Mm.
honestly, because I'll explain it like, yes, I do this for a living, but I'm a human being. I'm a wife. So when he was going through this, I was immersed in it. And so all
Yeah.
of the logical, rational things that I knew,
Hmm. It's
it
hard to have
didn't
that
apply.
perspective.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I was just
It's,
immersed in it. So,
yeah, it's different when it's you.
hmm
Absolutely. And just to give you a fun giggle, my
hmm
husband doesn't like to be questioned.
yeah,
And he married a detective. So,
good combo.
I feel your pain in, in some of those moments, believe me. Uh, um, and so obviously, and you've been, so kind, and you've shared, a lot about not only Tony's transition, but also your transition as,
hmm
as the wife, and some of his struggles after he retired. And I think that probably is like a good lead into while I get my
Yeah.
prop.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I'm all about the shameless plugs. Do it, do it, do it. It'll be in the show notes to purchase. Surviving retirement. Talk to me about all of the things.
All of the things. Yes.
All
So
of the things.
after kind of the initial impact of him retiring, I started as I was able to kind of take a step back a little bit more. Um, I kind of was like, now my nerd brain is kicking in, and I need to know all of the things about retirement. And what do you know? People
Yeah.
have already researched this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of did a deep dive just online and different like formal research articles,
Hmm.
videos of retirees and everything else. And I gave him a notepad, and I was like, write everything down that you would want one of your partners to know. And he very quickly wrote everything down, kind of just dumped it all on paper.
Yeah.
And then I just did a deep dive into like, I don't want other retirees, other spouses, families to go through this and not
Hmm.
understand what's going on. So I
Yeah.
wanted to understand it so we could help the next, kind of retiring couple and first
Yeah.
responder. And so uh, went through the research, came across, which is in the book, Riley Moynes, and that the 4 phases of retirement on his TED
Hmm.
talk. And he's not a first responder. But I was like, holy shit, this actually fits.
Makes sense.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and so I was able to take that information that I had. I brought it to my agency, which I was still pretty new at my agency at the time when he retired.
Hmm.
And I was like, hey, what are we doing for our retirees? Because this sucks.
Yeah.
And having the opportunity to talk with over 200 of our own retirees and realizing like we are
Yeah.
not alone, like we're not unique, we're not special.
Yeah.
This happens so much and nobody's talking about it.
Yes.
And so, we put together a class on retirement. And
Hmm.
at first, my husband's like, I'll go with you, but I'm not talking.
Can talk. Yeah.
I'm like, fine. If people have questions, I'll answer them, but I'm not talking.
Yeah.
And then it evolved into like, okay, I'll share my story.
Yeah.
Then it evolved into like, okay, I'll talk a little bit more. And so, so I through my own experience and not
Yeah.
wanting others to kind of struggle with no information,
Yeah.
I started really like wanting to talk about this stuff. And
Hmm.
so, I was on a podcast episode with Cindy Doyle of Code for Couples,
Hmm.
and we talked about it. And then after she said, like, hey, this, you should probably write this. And I was like, I don't want to write anything because I did that in grad school and I'm
Yeah.
good.
And you're like,
And
I just live
so,
this. I don't need to
yeah.
tear open old
So,
wounds.
yeah, and she, her book Hold the Line for Couples is like the survival kit for being married to a first responder. And so
Mm-hmm.
I marinated on it a bit and was
Yeah.
like, yeah, maybe I'll try this. And so she connected me with Adam Davis, who helped me through that process. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the book I never wanted to write is is here. And
It's here. It's here in my hot little hand.
and so it I made it intentionally very, very short and quick
Yes.
because attention
Yes.
spans,
I was I was going to get to that very much. So
hmm
it's 100. I looked just before we jumped on. It's
hmm
104 pages, um, which I think is perfect amount for
hmm
first responders. Many of who are not natural readers, as we might
hmm
say. But equally, and having read it, and I'm not as what would I say? I'm not as nerdy as Doug
hmm
White, our mutual friend, because he does tabs. I
Yes.
do like gray lead, underlines, stars, all that kind of stuff. So he goes, he's crazy.
hmm
But your book, it's short, but it's clear, it's concise, and I think what I loved the most. So I had listened to your podcast episode with Doug on Tell This Story.
hmm
And I think that was probably part of the reason why I'm like, oh, I've got to talk to her.
hmm
And I mean, God, that was probably maybe 6 or 12 months ago.
Yeah.
I listened to that. Apparently I'm a slow learner. But it was, and then now equally reading the book, in the last couple of weeks in the way that I have, like you speak, not only do you speak first responder, but it's like you've written it in the way that we speak too, which I think is not only something for you to be commended for, but it's also like you're not getting caught up in the psychobabble, as you might want to
hmm
say. It's like it's just putting it in language that anyone picking it up can understand,
hmm
which I think is incredibly important for the people who you are trying to reach.
hmm Yeah, thank you so much. It was important to me to make it as easy of a read as possible.
Yeah.
And then also just to weave in, in each chapter kind of starts with a story.
Yeah.
And hey, this is what we went through.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the most rewarding things is when I get an email or something that's like, hey, this helped me get unstuck, or hey, it's nice to know I'm
Oh,
not the only one. And I'm
yeah.
like, right there, that's
Yeah.
worth it, just because
Uh,
that was the goal is like, you're
yeah.
not the only one. No
Mm.
one's talking about it, you know?
Exactly. No, and that makes all the sense. And as well, like you break down concepts in that are sort of easily understandable and digestible, and you'll kind of also give like the actionable steps
hmm
and advice in terms of if you encourage people to like take an inventory, and you're like,
hmm
it doesn't have to be this, but it's like, have a think about this,
hmm
consider this. Like, it's not like you need to do A, B, and C. It's
hmm
reflective of the fact that we're all different. All of our experiences are very subjective, but
hmm
it's kind of gives like a really sort of wonderful like blueprint, and sort of like one of the ones that stood out to me in particular was the way that you explained hypervigilance,
hmm
and the way that, and again, like you don't really hear anyone talk about it, that the way that our bodies, like
hmm
physiologically, it's like a muscle. It's like going to the gym. The more you go to the gym,
Yeah.
the stronger you get, and the heavier the weights that you can carry.
hmm
Where our bodies are still being affected physiologically, but we no longer feel it anymore. So
hmm
then we don't understand, you know, and especially in particular, like that transition home, like you were
hmm
saying, Tony needed that downtime, that decompression time, all that kind of thing.
hmm
When we don't feel activated, even though our
hmm
system actually is,
Yeah.
we're not understanding our truly, our true need to actually go through that process.
hmm Yeah, and it a lot of the things, so some of that is the like remnants of what we learned, him
Mm,
and I and myself kind of in our crash course early on, and
yeah.
then in retirement. And it was so important to me to explain the biology and the physiology, because
Yes.
it breaks my heart when I hear retirees, when I hear first responders say that they're broken.
Yeah.
And it's not, you're not broken. The system's not broken. You're not defective. Your body is doing what it is trained to do, and now the
Mm,
conditions are just very different, and it
yeah.
doesn't understand, it doesn't get the memo. The only way it learns is
Yeah.
through experience. So how do
Yep.
you intentionally train it to do something different in retirement?
Yeah,
That it's
absolutely.
just understanding the system can help you regain a sense of control and predictability, which are
Mhm.
important for our
Yeah,
first responder.
absolutely. And like you're saying, like not only do our bodies need that time to, adjust like from like work mode to home mode, but like you're
Mhm,
saying, like, he did this role that was obviously very responsive and reactive and
mhm,
intense and stressful for almost 30 years. So
mhm,
it's like then for anyone's body to
mhm,
make that transition, we all have, we might go on leave for like a couple of weeks, so you're kind of
mhm,
super chilled out, but then there's always the reactivation because you go back to work, and then what
mhm,
happens when you don't? Your body's like, what's what's going on here?
mhm.
I need to get this energy out, like, and then when
Yeah.
there's no outlet for it, we
Mhm.
can feel so, dysregulated as a result.
Yeah. Yeah, and usually the outlet it goes is on your spouse or your family members who are home,
Exactly.
right? And it's often
Hmm.
like takes the form of just arguments about dumb shit. Things that
Yes.
don't really matter.
Nothing
It's
that matters.
just
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like, "Hey, I'm feeling a little spicy and you're here,
Mm,
so you're definitely the problem. And let's
exactly.
go. And it's not and so many relationships struggle in retirement. So
Mm,
many. And it's
yeah.
again, knowing that, hey, it's okay. This is why this is happening,
Yeah.
and here's how you can kind of train, yourself and then the relationship to just do something a little bit differently.
Yeah. And I mean, I even know, like, from, my own experience, like my husband's gone
Mhm.
two days and 2 nights a week. That's his
Mhm.
firefighter schedule. And like I love it. I love that he's gone. I get to wear my weird, like, face masks overnight that he gives me shit
Mhm.
for if he's here. I can, veg out, I can watch my Grey's Anatomy, I can like
Mhm.
do whatever silly things that like I want to do.
Yeah.
Um and so then when he's on leave and he's home and I'm like, oh, why are you still fucking here, mate?
Yeah.
Like,
You're
and
messing up
so
my
it's,
program. Yeah.
yes. And it's kind of like there is a bit of a transition, I
Mhm.
think, to having that person who tends to be away a lot home. And you kind of
Mhm.
like we equally sometimes enjoy our own time and our own
Mhm.
space and all of the
Yes.
things.
Yes, yeah, and
Um,
I didn't learn that until it happened, and I'm
yeah.
like, "Why am I so bitchy all the time?" Like, this man is taking care of my house, he's cooking me food when I get
But he's
home, like, what
always
is wrong with
there. He's
me? Yeah,
always
and then I was
there.
like, it clicked, I was like, "Oh my god, you're always here now," because I had
Yep.
that time built in when he
Yes.
was working, and I didn't, like, see it for what it was at the
You take
time.
it for granted. Yeah,
Yep, until it
absolutely.
happened, and I'm like, "God,
It's
what is
like,
wrong with me? Why am I such a jerk?" Like, he's making dinner, the house is clean, what is my deal? And that was it.
yeah, you're like, I love you, but like, go somewhere.
Yeah, like, you're always here, like, all the time.
Turns out we have more in common than we
Yeah.
ever imagined. Um, so two things that stood
Mhm,
out to me in regards to the book, and in more specifically, not talking about like active duty time, but in retirement.
mhm,
Um, I think two of the key sort of like takeaways and things that you really inform your reader about is number one, purpose,
mhm.
and number two, identity,
Yeah.
and making sure that someone has a purpose once they
Mhm,
retire. Because I think we all need a purpose. It's part of like the human experience that
mhm,
we need a purpose to feel fulfilled and happy in our lives. But
mhm,
equally, the identity that can be tied up with our previous
mhm,
purpose. So I just wondered, if there was sort of anything that maybe you wanted to share about either of those two
Mhm.
elements.
Yeah, and that was, my husband struggled with that a lot because a lot of
Mm.
his identity, it was that singular identity as a cop. He loved
Yeah.
doing it and he didn't know any
Yeah.
different, and we don't have kids, so it wasn't like the family side of it. Like it was
Hmm.
all about the work. And
Yeah.
um, a lot of times people will say like, I'm just a cop. Like that's all I am. That's all my worth is tied into this.
Yeah.
And the retirement process, life in retirement, kind of, you feel like a fish out of water. And
Mm.
so it's restructuring the identity and purpose. It's not
Mm.
going to happen overnight. You developing that singular identity didn't happen overnight. It
Yeah.
was a series of choices and behaviors and trainings and all of these other things. And
Mm.
so it's restructuring that purpose. And oftentimes it'll be, what about being, for cops, like what about being a cop is fulfilling for you?
Yeah.
It's take the bad guy to jail. Okay. So we're not going to be able to do that in retirement, right? That would get you into a lot of trouble. Um, but like what else is there? What do you
Yeah.
gain by taking that person to jail? And then it often trickles down to service to others
Yeah.
and, being able to help somebody.
Hmm.
And then we kind of, titrate that down to what does that look like in retirement? It's not going to be the same.
Hmm.
And it doesn't mean that that time on the job didn't matter, but it built you into the person you are now who's driven
Hmm.
to serve in
Yeah.
some capacity to help others. And then how do we still maintain that connection and capacity to serve in retirement? And a lot of it's trial and error
Hmm.
and having patience with the process, which can be very difficult.
Yeah.
Um, but it really is just finding that routine and that connection and, managing expectations that it's not going to be, oh, if I, go fishing today, then, rainbows, unicorns, butterflies, I figured life out. Like
Yeah.
that's not realistic.
Mm.
But it's just knowing that like, something you're doing might serve you for a while and then you get to change it a little bit. And how
Hmm.
great is it that you actually get
Get that
the time
choice.
and the
Yeah.
opportunity and the choice to be able to do that
Yeah.
without having to deal with work stuff,
Yeah.
and kind of like chipping away at finding that purpose again
Yeah.
and reconnecting with that and restructuring it. So it's not let's get rid of that and start over from scratch. It's let's restructure what's already there and let's
Hmm.
build the identity and purpose in a way that matches up with retired life.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that that makes a lot of sense, and even you know, a lot of us join before we're kind of fully formed humans. Like I
Hmm.
like to say, when we're sort of in our early 20s and we're actually still developing our identity outside of
Hmm.
our parental influences, our friendship network influences, all that kind of thing, and then we join this role that is so identifying, and there's
Hmm.
the what do you want to call it, thin blue line family, the blue blanket, like whatever it is, we
Hmm.
get like drawn into it.
Yeah.
And it is easy for us to accept it because they are accepting of us. They want to pull us into the fold. So
Hmm.
then when that is your life for like 30 years, like it's such a shock to the system, and
Hmm.
and also obviously like very isolating too, because
Yeah.
then when you're out, you're out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you're not matching timelines up with like other people you've
Hmm.
served with and they're still in, they don't have time to catch up with a retiree all of the
Hmm.
time and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But equally, like it's funny, like I obviously am not in my 50s. At least I hope I don't look like I do.
Yeah.
Then I
You
will be
don't.
going to get the Botox. But some of the stuff that you like, I have followed your work on social media and stuff, and some of the stuff that you post even resonates with someone like me, who I've been
Hmm.
out of the job for 10 years now. I was in for like 8.5, 9 years.
Hmm.
That loss of identity happens regardless of whether you've had a 30-year career or you've had like a 9-year career.
Hmm.
And and it depends, I think, on maybe like the reasons as to why you left. But
Mhm.
I sort of left kind of almost like suddenly, and I
Mhm.
left for good reasons, but it
Mhm.
would that never sort of felt wrapped up for me either. And then I
Mhm.
came to like a new country, um and again, like seeking that purpose. Like I found my new purpose working at a suicide prevention and crisis counseling organization,
Mhm.
because there was that theme of like, oh well, I help people, like
Mhm.
this is what I do. But still that loss of identity from
Mhm.
being, you know, a police officer, or I think a first responder in general, it's something that we don't realize or recognize until
Mhm.
you step away and you're like, huh. It's
Mhm.
it's uh it's very challenging, I think, no matter what time you step away from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's the combination of kind of the work that you've put into it and
Mm,
how that's shaped you, and then coupled with the connections, like that
yeah.
social connection aspect. And I've talked to so many retirees that are like, "Ah, I can't wait till I'm done. Everybody's an idiot and fuck these guys and blah, blah, blah." And then after a while, they're like, I kind of miss the idiots.
Yeah.
I kind of want to be back at work with them, you know? And it's just missing that piece of it too.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that was a funny thing towards like the end of the book. There's a
Hmm.
couple of very, very succinct pages from Tony in there. And it was, you know, when I was in the job, I was angry and cranky and all of the things, and I
Hmm.
hated everyone. And he's like, and now I'm happy and chilled and relaxed, and I still hate everyone,
Yeah.
but I'm in a better place about it. And I read that and I gave me a giggle. We're always going to see
Yeah.
people in a certain way, unfortunately.
Hmm.
But so the training that you guys sort of like talked about, is that something
Hmm.
like ongoing that you and Tony sort of partner up with to help provide people like equally, as well as having like, you know, this is a resource?
Hmm. Yeah, so we still do the training. A couple of agencies will have me come out and give the training for their
Mm-hmm.
folks.
Yeah.
And then I went ahead, I because I'm still working full time and I can't like fly and travel all over the place.
Yeah.
I went ahead and put together kind of a on demand
Mm-hmm.
virtual version
Yeah.
for folks that want to be able to kind of access the content.
Yeah.
But you know, I can't be there in person to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have that now, and then the book, obviously.
Yeah, awesome. That's super helpful because yes,
Hmm.
it's not like can't you know gavelant all over the country.
Hmm.
But also I did tell Medina offline, but my sister is a psychiatrist, and she currently works for a trauma foundation in Australia, and the program that she works for is helping treat first responders and veterans. And I was able to recommend this to my sister, and she has been able to pass it along as a resource to some of her clients. So I think it's worthwhile to say you are helping people all over the world. So
Thank you. Thank you so much. Something
no,
good came out
that's
of all the pain and suffering. Totally.
exactly, and I think that's you know, it sometimes makes it feel like it was all worth
Hmm.
it. And so now, talk to me. I am in the
Hmm.
presence of a fellow podcast host now.
Oh my goodness, yes.
So we carry this. Talk to me
Hmm.
about where it came from. You know, some of the nerves or the hesitation involved, and I guess maybe what's the purpose behind it for you.
Yeah, so the from having the opportunity to talk with people all over the country on their podcasts and just have
Mm-hmm.
conversations. I've had the opportunity to meet some pretty amazing people
Mm-hmm.
and connect with them.
Yeah.
And so as this whole thing evolved, all the stuff with the retirement and everything, I kind of um, just in reflection was like, you know what, I really want to have more of these conversations,
Yeah.
and really looking at which the title we carry this is looking at the shared weight
Mm-hmm.
that everybody carries.
Yeah.
um, and that could be active duty retired officers, that could be family members, that could be the clinicians, chaplains, peer supporters who serve them. but really to drive home the weight that you're not carrying in isolation.
Yep.
Even if it's really shitty right now and you feel like you're all alone, I guarantee you, whether it's your partner, your spouse, family member, is carrying it as well.
Yeah.
And so it's really about just kind of very casual conversations about the work, about how do you support somebody through the work, the lessons learned. It was important to me to not kind of do the trauma dumping, which I just did an episode that'll be coming out mid-December with a retired cop on the East Coast. And we talk about this, where it's yes, here's everything that happened. Here's what I learned from that. And here's what I do now to support and help other people. And it really is about kind of normalizing the conversations, say the hard stuff, like let's not sugarcoat it. And then identify what are the resources out there. And it's very, it's not fuzzy. Again, like I told you, right? Day one, I already knew I wasn't going to be fuzzy. That's just not in my DNA. But it really is just like conversations. And my hope too is that it also normalizes, as psychologists, that, hey, we're human too.
Yeah.
We're weird. Some of us more than others, but we're human, and we kind of go through all of this stuff together. Yeah. And so it's really just about having those conversations. And I enjoy the conversation part. It's out there for everybody to listen is still terrifying. I'm hoping, like we talked offline, you said it's a form of exposure therapy. So I'm just hoping that that goes away after some time. But yeah, it's been phenomenal. Like I'm so glad that I stepped way outside my comfort zone to do that.
That's amazing. And I'm really happy for you, because
thank you.
Equally, like the joy that you get from these kinds of conversations, and it's the same, like, we don't have 10 different camera angles like hitting us right now, like I sort of equally, I want my podcast just to be about the conversations. It's about spotlighting people's experiences. Again, you don't want to like trauma dump, but it's like, this is what I went through, or this is what I experienced, this is kind of what happened, this is me at my depths, perhaps, in as much or as little detail as they're comfortable sharing, but more the focus of this is what helped, and this is where I am now. And you are just hoping that it resonates with the people who need to hear it, so that, like you said, they know they're not alone. We can normalize these conversations, and equally normalize people reaching out for help, people speaking to an embedded, clinician, people accessing EMDR, like all of the different options that are available. And it's not, hey, I think I'm awesome and I host a podcast. It's like, hey, I want to have this conversation with this person because I think that everything they can share with you is going to be impactful. And even if it just helps like that one person, we don't know who needs to hear it and who's going to hear it. But invariably, I guess with my experience now, regardless of whether it's like the podcast or the radio show, it's really beautiful when you don't even know if or when, but like you get sort of like you're saying, a little email or a little feedback or a message, and it's like, oh my God, like that one hit me like a ton of bricks. And listening to them describe their symptoms, that's what made me realize that, oh shit, like I don't think I'm good. I need to go get some help. And that is the first step that someone else takes. Yeah. And you're just like, I'm done. I'm like, I could leave this world tomorrow, and I know that someone has been impacted, and that's what it's about. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That's awesome. Yeah. Still uncomfortable, but it's whatever.
Well, I will say that for me at the very least, the exposure therapy did work. I don't completely despise the sound of my own voice or myself on video. So it's progress. It's progress.
Yeah.
I'll
report back.
Yes, do. I wouldn't say I'm at the point where I'm like, oh my God, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
but it's like I'm not kind of like rewatching and editing like that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's, you
That's
get there in the
hopeful.
end, I promise. Exactly. You'll get there, I promise. So talk to me about a like release schedule,
Mm-hmm.
where people can find it, all that kind of thing. I'll legitimately put some stuff in the show notes, but just so
Yeah,
anyone listening, if they want to jump off this one and go jump on yours, where can they
sure.
find you?
Sure. So the podcast is released on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and some other platforms.
Mm-hmm.
The first episode launched November 5th, which is my husband's birthday. So I
Aw.
figure his whole mess in retirement started me down this path. So, um, and then I am releasing an episode every 2 weeks.
Cool.
So the next one will be like on the 19th, and then 2 weeks
Yeah.
after that. And I've got some great guests. I did, like, full disclosure, I started with a few folks that I've connected with and am comfortable with. So they're like
Of
my
course.
binkies as
Yeah.
I'm doing these first few episodes. But
Nothing
then
wrong with that.
venturing out
We,
a little
we
bit.
we all did that. We all did that. Believe me. I had like half of my friends over
Yeah.
onto mine. You gotta, because then if you stuff up,
Mhm.
you don't feel so bad, and it's good.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. Well, yeah, I'll pop all of the links in the show notes for anyone listening. And I think not only through this conversation, anyone listening, but if you go and either look at some of the stuff that Medina shares online on the socials, and in surviving retirement, you bring a lot of value to this community. So not only your skill base and your knowledge and your education and all of the work that you do with the responders, but reaching us where we are, speaking to
Mhm.
us in a language we understand, and making it so, I think accessing help is not a further burden that can be placed on people. You're making it easy, and that is
Thank
something
you.
that really, really to be commended, because it's, you and I both know that we lose a lot in this community,
Mhm.
and it's all, I think something we're all working towards trying to prevent, help,
Mhm.
mitigate all of the things. So thank you
Yeah.
for all the work that you do. It is greatly
Thank
appreciated.
you. Thank you.
I would like to finish off asking you a couple of questions that we ask all of
Mhm.
our guests at the end. Um, and so normally they're kind of posed to, first responders, and it comes from the name
Mhm.
of the podcast, I Will Hold Space for Your Darkness. But, you have been the spouse of a first responder for almost 2 decades, and equally
Mhm.
you know, treat so many, and have therefore, sort of been exposed to a lot of vicarious trauma, I would suspect,
Mhm.
throughout your service. So the first question I like to ask people is, what do you do to hold
Mhm.
space for your darkness?
Two of the biggest things that I do, it's something I call quiet connection,
Mm-hmm.
and journaling. So the quiet connection could be me literally sitting in silence and just connecting internally with how I'm
Okay.
doing,
Mm-hmm.
um, and kind of making sure that all of my systems are online so that I can
Yeah.
continue to do the work that I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other piece of that is journaling too.
Okay.
And I don't, many years back, after starting this job, actually,
Mm-hmm.
I started to change up how I journal. So my journaling now is more of a reflection of whatever the weight is,
Yeah.
whatever is on my mind, but it's more of the reflection of that. And how
Yeah.
can I use that in my own life to
Mm-hmm.
maintain that purpose and fulfillment?
Yeah. So taking inventory, one might say.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Walking the walk.
Yeah. Doing, coming full circle.
Yeah.
And equally, what can someone do in order to support you in holding
Mm-hmm.
space for that darkness?
Yeah, so connection is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Maintaining that connection, whether it's a silly text message, sometimes, memes or whatever the case is. Scheduling a lunch or just time to talk and connect.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side of that, I would say just kind of hold the light, because sometimes it's dark and it's dreary, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't need words. I don't need to go out and interact with a bunch of people. I just need somebody to hold the light while I'm figuring it out.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. I love that, and I'm going to throw a very minor spanner in the works. I want to ask you a third question simply because
Okay.
you are an expert, and I guess what would maybe one piece of advice be that you could offer someone who I guess is perhaps struggling to hold their own darkness at the moment? What's
Hmm.
one thing that you would maybe advise or suggest someone do?
Yeah, I would say to not do that in isolation.
Mhm.
Even if, I mean, I'm a dog person, so even if it's a, hey, you got your dog because people suck right now, okay, but not carrying that alone, because when we're in isolation and we're in a really dark time, it's
Mhm.
hard to maintain connection with reality and with what's actually going on and keeping that
Mhm.
perspective
Yep.
because we're overloaded by our own. So if you can find a person, dog, something to kind of hold that piece of string so that
Mhm.
you're not in it alone,
Yeah.
that would be my top thing people can do.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing.
Hmm. Yeah,
All
thank you so
right.
much. This was great.
No, no, we're gonna leave it here. It has been an absolute honor to have this conversation today. Thank you so much for your time,
Yes,
Doctor.
thanks for having me on.
All right. This has been another episode of I Will Hold Space for Your Darkness. I've been your host, Erin Jane. And as always, let me listen in a way you've never been heard. Cheers.